On the Steelers side of it, Mitch Trubisky, not a great night overall for Mitch Trubisky. I mean, sure, there's some stats here. He throws for a touchdown. He runs for a touchdown. The wide receivers were clearly impacted. Deontay Johnson gets some of the yardage in a touchdown, 57 yards in the touchdown, Matthew. But for George Pickens, he gets more receptions with 5, but only 19 yards. These were just short passes all around.
Yeah, an average up at the target of just 5.3 yards, which I believe was his lowest of the entire season. They only took one deep shot. There was a shot of him wide open in the end zone that Trubisky just completely missed him. You see this tweet here from Next Gen Stats. George Pickens' average route depth across 6 targets was 3.4 yards past the line of scrimmage, compared to 16.1 on non-targets, the largest difference among any receiver with 5 or more targets in a game this season, 12.7. Every one of Pickens' targets were under 10 air yards. Hashtag New England NE versus Pitt. Hashtag here we go. That's from Next Gen Stats. Yeah, bad day at the office for George Pickens, and Trubisky looked terrible. I mean, the truth of the matter is...
It was uncomfortable.
Do you understand how bad you have to be for a crowd to start chanting for Mason Rudolph?
Oh, my goodness.
Like, really early as well.
Right.
Second quarter.
Second quarter, yeah. Unbelievable.
It felt like every drop back was if the first read wasn't open, that he could run. But we don't know why he thought he could run.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Because he's not that fast.
No.
So we were talking about this, Connor and I, in makeup, another conversation we weren't privy to, Matthew. But there were Steelers beat reporters were tweeting out about how, no one's open. It's like, but Mitch is running after 1 second.
Right.
Like, he's not giving them a
developing.
chance to get open. And I'm sorry, but J.C. Jackson is on the field. J.C. Jackson's got nothing left. If whoever is running against J.C. Jackson, they're going to get open eventually. You just have to hang in the pocket, and it was just a mess all around for Trubisky.
I forget who tweeted this out, so I apologize. But somebody tweeted this out, and they showed a clip of George Pickens in pregame.
Yeah.
And he's running along. He's running along in the end zone, and for those, but like he's running like this, right? And he's just he's running like this, and he's running one thing, and then a ball is thrown behind him, and he just turns around and just grabs it with one hand.
Yeah.
Like it was just like the most casual, brilliant catch ever, like not even trying. And they're like, and the person said something. I like how the Steelers saw this in the pregame and decided to completely ignore him. Yeah, like. Pickens and Deontay Johnson are good wide receivers. They are good NFL wide receivers who can get open, and both of them can win contested catches. Like, to the point that are saying like they weren't open. First off, they were, and secondly, throw it to them. Yeah. Throw them up. Those are guys that can win 50-50 balls. Same with Freiermuth. It just the whole offense was brutal, and this is one of those things in fantasy. Like, you got 21 fantasy points out of Mitch Trubisky, which is terrible because he shouldn't have. And
he was objectively bad.
That was a 0 out of 10 performance.
He fell into the end zone. I mean, I had Deontay Johnson on my hate list. I'll own this, and I mean, I guess like because he catches the 125-yard touchdown, so it sort of bails out his fantasy day. He didn't have Deontay Johnson didn't have a great day. I think I had him at wide receiver 29 or something like that, which is probably about where he's going to finish, maybe slightly higher depending on scoring. The one touchdown sort of bails him out, but like even though I quote got it wrong, I don't feel like I got it wrong. Like I feel like Deontay Johnson was not a good play last night, even though he ended up scoring. He's now had under 60 receiving yards in all of his last 5 games. He's got a 44% catch rate in that time frame. And I mean, 3 for 57 on a touchdown. He got 3 receptions.
Yeah, look, the Steelers, they play the Colts next week. Colts defense is fine. They got a better pass rush than New England. I don't think you're starting any single Steeler next week against the Colts if you can avoid it. All of these guys just feels like they're going to get doomed by Trubisky. It just was just a bad vibe all night for the Steelers. Like, Pickens is taking plays off, not blocking after what Deontay Johnson did on the fumble a couple of weeks ago. Mike Tomlin calling timeout, 4th and 1 with 7 minutes left to go for it on 4th and inches. That costs them the game. Because if he has that timeout in pocket, then they get the ball back with a minute left instead of 15 seconds or whatever, and all of a sudden you can actually have a real drive for a field goal. You cannot just make up your mind on the spot. You have to have things in place to know that we're going to go for it or not.
Did he call a sneak on that, too?
He called a sneak.
You don't need to call timeout to call
Well, he
sneak.
didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah,
this is like these coaches. Sean McDermott has no idea what he's doing at the end of games. And we won't get into Sean McDermott, but
he's had his own week.
There just needs to be more of a plan, and that cost them the game.
It really did. By the way, and they shouldn't have even had to 4th and inches, because was it the same drive, the 3rd and 2, where instead of just trying to do a run or dump off to Jalen Warren, they chucked it deep, and
that was the next mistake.
That was the next mistake.
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah, that's insane. Like,
Yeah,
3rd and
sorry.
2, just run it out of the gun. The Patriots are rushing 2 in that spot. And then to call the deep ball, and look, you never know with play calling. Maybe they thought they saw something and they thought they were going to get a better look. But, I mean, Mitch Trubisky, there's no chance he's completing that pass. He's going to be able to complete a pass all night.
It's not even close.
It's unbelievable.
So,
all
around
the
tough.
Steelers, we joked about this 2 weeks ago. The Steelers, like, look at this. Like, they're 7-2 or whatever. They're 7-3, and then they get the Cardinals at home and the Patriots at home. This is a team that's going to walk into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen now is, just turn it to an NFL discussion for 1 second. Here's what's going to happen. Because they've lost these 2 terrible games, because they're not a good team. Jay, you would say it all the time. They're like the 25th best team in football, but they're gonna win 11 games and they're gonna win into the end zone, into the playoffs. So here's what's gonna happen. Now it's starting to catch up with them. This is a bad loss. Arizona was a bad loss, as you mentioned. Here's our upcoming schedule. The Colts, that's a tough one, and that's on the road at Indy. Indy's is smelling playoffs. Home to Cincinnati, that's always tough, and the Bengals are back alive. At Seattle and at Baltimore. Right, I mean, so that's tough. Like, all of those are losable games.
Yeah.
Right, and so they're going to basically, instead of like, what would have been better for them is if they just tanked.
Yeah.
Right, and they just and then they're in the mix for one of these good quarterbacks that are coming out. But now it's another
land.
year of right. They're going to be picking like 17th or 18th. They're where the Commanders usually pick, and it's going to be another year of Kenny Pickett.
Yep.
And they'll take they'll take a safety or something.
Right.
They'll take a right tackle.
They need a corner.
Right.
They'll take a corner. Like something that won't move the needle enough for them to get out of this middle of the pack state.
I mean,
it's crazy.
I feel bad. But back to fantasy for a second. I completely agree with you in terms of, like, you don't feel confident in any piece of this offense. Not Freiermuth. All the upside that we felt in that first game back after Matt Canada had been let go. Jalen Warren and Najee Harris again, just sort of, I don't mean to go too far in this Najee Harris hate, and you and I've made it a bit, Jay, but like, to my eye, Connor, you're objective here. To my eye, Jalen Warren is the more explosive running back. I don't understand the continued usage of Najee Harris at the expense of Jalen Warren. 15 touches for Harris last night, just 11 for Warren, in a game in which they were trailing for most of the game. So why wouldn't the passing down back be in there? That gives them a better option on offense. A pass that Trubisky can complete. You know what I mean? Like those dump offs to Warren, he can actually complete. Am I wrong on this?
No, I think to a much lesser extent, it's the version with the Cowboys where we're always wondering for years why Tony Pollard doesn't get more looks over a tired Ezekiel Elliott. Now, I'm not putting it on that pedestal that high, but from a coaching point of view, they're looking at it. Can Jalen Warren be a guy for us that gets 23 touches a game? They probably think no. The other guy is Najee Harris, who this coaching staff and a lot of people in that front office used a first-round pick on. They can't let it go. But I agree. It's reached the point where it's obviously had a negative effect on the team. And Warren didn't have a good night either, which is that much more frustrating, is that neither of these running backs could get going.
In the 3 games since Matt Canada was let go, he's averaging just 7.3 fantasy points per game. That's Jalen Warren. Meanwhile, Najee Harris has now had single-digit fantasy points in 3 of the past 4 games. 9th straight game with fewer than 55% of the team rushes. They didn't get anywhere. Again, tough matchup against the Patriots, but still, it just like, for a team with a bunch of people that we feel like have real NFL talent, the fact that there's not one viable fantasy starter that you feel good about, that you feel like I can just lock them into my lineup and forget about it, is mind-boggling. And they've got a winning record.
Yep.
Like, it's...
Not for much longer. The reckoning is coming.
Oh, man. All right, let's get away from this game, finally. It's amazing.
Thank you, Connor.
We spent a lot of time on it because it did exceed our expectations.
We are the Zappy Hour.
We're officially, I'm all in now. We're officially
It was a
Zappy
compelling
Hour.
game.
It was.
Everyone was like, this game is the worst ever, total 30 and a half.
It was a fun game.
It was fun. Lots to talk about.
Lots to talk about.
How about
That's all we ask for here on the show. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.